Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to the aftermath, so to speak. The day after the event, the 1st of April event has ended, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about it. First of all, there is the Leopard 2A5 with a battle rating of 13.0 at rank 8, and yeah, it has a fantastic 120mm Rheinmetall L44 cannon with a reload of 6.7 seconds. Yeah, if just. Furthermore, we see smoke launchers and all the additional stats. Fantastic horsepower to weight ratio. It is way above 1,500 horsepower on a 59-ton tank. Fantastic armor, and it has two shell types: the 120mm gunfires and APDS FS shell DM53 with 700 millimeters of penetration, and the DM12 Heat FS shell with 650 millimeters of penetration. Then we also see the GM64 helicopter with 8 178mm AGM 114F rockets, additional 38 times 70mm Hydra rockets, and 30mm turrets. Then we also see that also backed up by the Flakpanzer 1 Gepard with a battle rating of just 8.0. So, as you can see in the background, the gameplay is fluent. We see this on the Sinai map with a different name. I think it's just called Desert, if I remember correctly. And then there was a second map that you see in the second replay, or recording rather, with the Soviets. Now, I never can really, believe, Gaijin, that it's just April Fools. First of all, yes, I really like it. I saw the funny side of it, but I also saw the massive amounts of work and enthusiasm that the developers put into this. How so? Well, the Leopard and also the Russian counterpart, the T-90, well, they were really nice modeled. They had their own sound design. As you can see, the smoke launchers work, and everything felt fluently and just right. It was not like, it didn't felt like it was designed for just 3 days. There are different things in War Thunder that do not have the same amount of feel to it. For example, if you look at the daily reward missions that you can make, the PvE, doesn't feel like a lot of effort and love was put in. This one, however, was really awesome, and yeah, you really could see that it was not just fun to play, but it also was really nice to look at. The gameplay was fast and it was really entertaining up until the last point. And while there was a spawn point system, here you can see the helicopter, by the way, it was not a disastrous spawn point system like we have currently in realistic ground battles. Now, if you like it or not is up to you. I myself have my opinion on it, especially when a top tier heavy tank eats up all the spawn points. In this respect, you could spawn as often as you like. This remembers me like in the very old arcade days, where you could spawn as often as you had tanks in your kind of lineup, including the backups. So your cruise times 2, you could respawn. That meant that at the end of the day, in arcade, the battles took longer. Look at this awesome run here, and you can really see how disastrous helicopters could be. But back to the spawn point system. You just had to gather 900 spawn points to get into a helicopter, and I just destroyed 4 tanks in a single run. And that was the initial run. The steering with the helicopters, it was kind of strange. I did not really get the right feel for it. You could see I jump around and try out different things. I played this actually quite a little bit and I enjoyed it. I'm not quite sure if I would enjoy this for a very long time. Now, just talk a little bit of nonsense here and say that Gaijin actually wants to implement this, and that this is the first kind of test run for, for higher tier vehicles. There are three problems. First of all, at the end of the day, I don't know where then the end would be. The second thing would be the insane grind. And then that Gaijin has to implement, this is the third part, War Thunder in itself, again, in terms of content. We need new maps if we would really would want to see this. Then we also would to have to back it up with aircraft / also helicopters of various times. And then the game meta really significantly changes with unguided and guided missiles, lock-on missiles, fire and forget weapons, and so on. And this thing in this event, the balance was there. I never had a problem in a T90 against any other opponents and with the Leopard alike. Although I have to say that the T90 was a bit more fun, although that the Leopard was better performing. And that had to do with the awesome ability of the T90 that you also could fire an ATGM and you could harvest helicopters for days. I'm not joking. You could literally, stand in your spawn point and harvest the spawn camping helicopters. And yes, helicopters were an issue where you just simply... That was a nice kill. Where you just simply, were shot at after spawning. After you drove like 100 meters, suddenly an ATGM came out of nowhere and you had insane amounts of damage or you were outright dead. And that was not that much entertaining. There were some individuals that really trained hard with the helicopters. That hurt. I was not really one of them. I took them out for a few spins and then just looked how does it go. But again, back to the implementation. First of all, I think this was kind of this year a bash a little bit on Armored Warfare. And I have to say, when I played Armored Warfare like over a year ago, it must be 1.5 years ago, it didn't have the graphics. It had great potential, but then there were other issues, and nowadays it's still in the development phase, and yeah, there are some issues because the big bosses want it to be just a copy of World of Tanks, while the actual development team that now was fired, they had greater ideas. But back to War Thunder. I think it just shows us that the engine is truly capable of delivering that. The sound design was on point, like the cannons, man, the cannons. The sound was awesome. The graphics, typical War Thunder, astonishing beautiful. It just fits. The stabilizer on the moving kind of warfare was just on point. I loved it. But there were the typical other issues, like your team fell apart like in this battle and you could try as hard as you wanted, you just couldn't cut it. Then let's talk a little bit about the smoke launchers. Now, currently within War Thunder tanks, a lot of the tanks have smoke launchers modeled, and you don't even have to look at higher tiers. For example, I know for sure that the Tigers, the first ones, the Tiger H1 and the Tiger E, have smoke launchers modeled. I think also earlier tanks have them modeled, but at the top of my head I just can't remember them. Now, if you looked at it, the Leopard had 2 charges, and so you could press it 2 times, and the T90 1 charge, and then they were dropped around you. And the nice thing was that they didn't completely block the view and then you were completely invisible like in World of Warships with destroyers. It made sense, like when you were at the edge of the smoke, you could be seen if somebody had an eye. You could also be seen from your tracers indirectly, and indirectly one could also spot you with machine gun fire, so or with a AAA, and then a marker popped up and they just knew where to hit them. They could repeatedly hit your track, adjust the aim, and just blow you apart. Furthermore, the smoke attract a lot of attention, and when you also were hit once, you just could, when you hit the enemy once and immobilized him, you just simply could, still aim at the same position and fire. The tank didn't appear. And so I also had no frame drops or any kind of issues with my PC when using smoke or when looking at a smoke. So I guess the engine is truly capable of dealing with it. So that would be an implementation that I would just say, yes, please implement it. Overall, the gameplay with the spawn point system in this kind of event, I'd say yes, I would pay for that to get access to that. A one-time payment, I personally would do it. But for kind of a rental entrance, so to speak, no, that wouldn't be the kind of spirit. It's a free-to-play game after all, so even a payment for entrance, it maybe for a closed beta state like Gaijin loves to do it. So yes, that could be the way to go. And I'm pretty sure with the amount of effort they put into this, I think they're playing with the thought, but that's a wild assumption of mine. Okay, so don't take this for serious. There were many more things that you also have to look at if you take a closer look. For example, sparks or non-registrating hits were a thing, especially with the AAA versus helicopters. It seems like they had some armor, but then you shot the next helicopter from the same angle and it exploded after the first few hits, so it made no sense. Helicopters were an issue, and the AAA is not really up to the task, especially the Schilker and the Flakpanzer and Gepard, which were the two representative AAAs. They had their issues. After all, it was mostly balanced, I have to say. But I had some matches also where helicopters, a few individuals, they really made the difference. They suppressed the enemy right from the start at long ranges, and if you didn't have the T90 with the ATGM to re-snipe them, to rebalance them, well, you had a hard time. Not every map at every location had cover from them. You didn't hear the ATGM as well, despite them going subsonic. Kind of something to rework. So another few things that I just want to point out. The zoom was really nice, especially the difference between the two stages for close quarters and far range engagements. So it's quite the opposite of, for example, certain German scopes that don't really have the long range option, and then for example the STA1 or STA2 rather, that just has the long range zoom for the 90mm, which is not really great for a short range weapon in my opinion. Overall it was a lot of fun, I have to say. But what were the real advantages of this game mode in terms of, for an everyday basis? First of all, the spawn point system. You had multiple chances, and if you like it or not, that is for the long-term grinding process just less frustrating, more effective, and just keeps you hooked for longer, in my opinion, within the game. Then there was also a more target-rich environment. Nobody could run and hide, the last player issue where in realistic battles the game is decided after 5-6 minutes, and then you wait for the last player to just crash or show himself or bail out, and that takes another 5 to 6 minutes, where then you also gain less RP and silver lines, which is highly frustrating. Didn't happen in this mode, however. Another question is how much effort went into this. I mean, the T90 and also the Leopard they showed a lot of detail, again, a lot of kind of sound design and so on. So the real question is, how much effort went into this? Remember, this is just a 3 days event, alright? And if you look at other parts within War Thunder, they didn't show that much effort, but they are longer term. For example, the daily booster event, where you can into this PvE environment and it's just repetitive, takes 40 minutes, is no fun, doesn't give you any kind of real silver line and research point rewards, but you still have to do it to get the booster for one battle. You know, that needs some rework still. Gaijin, please work on this as hard as you work on this. And there you can see how the smoke really worked. The glasses, you can see them through the smoke, but that's kind of the same in aircraft, and so I knew how to deal with it. But look at the nice smoke launch. I can't get enough of this, and it provides you with a semi half circle of cover, which is really nice. And another nice kill on on a helicopter, and out of nowhere an enemy T-90 ACAM, and I kind of shotgunned him with an ATGM that was actually supposed to go for the helicopter. So in this respect, another funny scene. So we talked about practically the smoke, some certain mechanics, the helicopters, that they can a little bit be annoying, and their dubious damage model, which needs a rework if Gaijin plays with the thought of implementing this. Overall, the sound design was still a bit buggy like in normal regular random battles, so when you got hit in the engine, it still delivered any kind of sound after you repaired it and so on. The automatic loading systems and the short reload times were really nice for those big guns. I guess both are smoothbore, if I'm not mistaken, from the looks of it. Yeah, it was very enjoyable, and I hope we see certain implementations of this event going to be implemented in the regular battle. The smoke launchers, I don't think that it's a really bad thing. Yeah, certain connection issues were still there. As you could see with this ATGM versus this helicopter, it turned far too late. And again, I couldn't really bring down this helicopter even with the heavy machine gun, despite numerous hits. And then I got hit by a Leopard. He took out my gunner, and just my gunner. And just before I could delete him, yeah. Every vehicle was in the ace qualification status as far as I can tell. The penetration and overmatch mechanics did work like in the normal battle, so nothing there. Just the penetration values were increased. A shame that I couldn't have a proper look at the armor values and how the reactive armor works, or if it works. There was just not enough testing time and not enough kind of situations where I really could deliver you a nice opinion with a lot of footage. It just didn't happen, but I still had a lot of fun. So I think for future implementations, helicopters could have their place. Not in air realistic battles, for them I guess the maps are too big. I mean, eventually you would get there, but you know, it's always a question of time. For air for ground battles, combined arms, they would have their point if you would implement them nicely and with a lot of balance and counterparts, and you know, deny them the long range like 3-4 kilometer snipings. In this respect, I think that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed my April Fool's video with the E75. A lot of you really appreciate it. Some of you did not receive it very well. I guess you have to learn a little bit of humor, and that's pretty drastic if you get told that to you by a German. And yeah, that's it for me today. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.